First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. If you don't have a chance to look them over. Yeah, I'll share
Two of those special.
special vote. Okay.
Make a motion to approve both sets of minutes from the common council and council first.
Motion made by Glenn.
I'll second motion.
Second by Steve. Roll call vote, please.
Yvonne.
Aye.
Kissling.
Aye.
Bounds.
Aye.
Ware.
Aye.
McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes, no nays.
Next, the approval of claims. I entertain a motion whenever everyone's ready.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Tim.
Second.
Second by Glenn. Roll call, please.
Yvonne.
Aye.
Kissling.
Aye.
Bounds.
Aye.
Ware.
Aye.
McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, this time we're going to go into our public hearing as far as the appropriation of funds for the Maple Park project. Have any comments from anybody in the audience about that?
Okay, it's just $130,400 for the difference between the two properties. City was paying.
Maple Park exchange for the city's property at high school.
Yes. So hearing that from the audience, I guess the public notice is closed. So now we'll entertain a motion as far as council is concerned. Right? For the appropriation.
I'd ask if he knows what fund it's coming
Well,
from.
the additional appropriation is going into the general fund, so it will come out of the general fund. We got a couple of influx of cash that we put in there, the sales of that. In fact, the grant from last year carried over.
Recovered.
So the next step would be adoption of the ordinance. I forget the number. You introduced the ordinance.
2021-11.
You introduced it already, just with the adoption.
Right.
Make a motion to approve the adoption to the 2021-11.
Motion made by Kissling,
I'll second it.
second by Ware. Roll call, please.
Yvonne.
Aye.
Kissling.
Aye.
Bounds.
Aye.
Ware.
Aye.
McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes, no nays.
The next item on there is for the consideration of the ordinance incorporated by reference to the Huntingburg Unified Development Ordinance. I think we all had a copy of that last time we talked about it, and over that, so I put this.
2 meetings ago, I believe,
Yeah.
you approved the Unified Development Ordinance, and the Unified Development Ordinance is required by law to either be the whole thing incorporated into your code of ordinances, and which should add about that much thickness to the code, or you can publish it by a separate booklet and just adopt an ordinance incorporating it by reference. So the ordinance you have before you would just incorporate that separate new publication by reference. There are a number of those copies available at the clerk treasurer's office at Huntingburg Public Library, and I believe that Mr. Lake was going to plan to get some available for all of you.
By the one.
Yeah,
They're all given drafts if we ask.
and it is also available online at the city's website, so it's readily available. This ordinance would just incorporate that document into the code without actually physically putting it into the code.
2021-13.
I'll make a motion to adopt 2021-13.
Motion made by
We
McFerrin,
have to introduce.
Introduced.
Oh, it's introduced and numbered.
Steve.
Motion to introduce
There's a motion.
2021-13.
Jose seconded. Roll call, please.
Yvonne.
Aye.
Kissling. Bounds.
Aye.
Ware.
Aye.
McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes, no nays.
Suspend the rules if you choose.
Make a motion to suspend the rules.
Just made a motion, suspend the rules.
I'll second it.
Second by McFerrin. Roll call, please.
Yvonne.
Aye.
Kissling.
Aye.
Bounds.
Aye.
Ware.
Aye.
McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes, no nays.
So that's it. Okay.
Adopt that.
Motion to adopt.
Motion made.
Motion made by McFerrin,
Second it.
seconded by Ware. Roll call, please.
Yvonne.
Aye.
Kissling. Bounds.
Aye.
Where?
Aye.
McFerrin. Aye. 5 ayes, no nays.
So for that, for all. Max.
All right. We haven't been able to actually hold a meeting since we've last met, but I'll speak on behalf of Southridge when I say this is probably the busiest time of the year for us between prom, musical, and the start of all the spring sports. I will talk about the prom, however. I think that from what I've heard, in my own opinion, we probably could have just done post prom because unfortunately the prom music wasn't very good. There was no slow songs due to COVID, and you had to wear the masks the entire time. But post prom, there was a tremendous amount of food and prizes from the local businesses and stuff that we were very appreciative of. The only thing was it started a little late. I wish prom would have ended a little sooner so that post prom could have started a little bit earlier. But other than that, not much to discuss since we haven't been able to talk or meet at all. We did recognize that May 11th, the baseball game on that day, will be the game that we recognize. I believe the fire chief, the police chief, and the EMT. I don't know who's the head of that, but we were supposed to recognize him as well, and get some gift baskets and goodie bags together for him. So that's pretty much all I have.
It was good. Did we change it from the 21st?
I think that's what
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Maddie said something.
Okay,
So
so I know before we set it up for everything was the 21st, I think. We'll check to verify to make sure.
yeah,
On the date of that, of the appreciation or?
Yeah, for the appreciation.
So,
I stand on the 21st, but if they change, so I need to make sure Gene knows about it too. So, all right, okay, but we'll verify that to make sure it's right. Date. So, yeah, they've done a really good job. They worked hard to get that money. I think we talked about that last time, and put the baskets together to show the appreciation for those first responders and things. I think it's awesome. That's what they want to spend it on. So that's pretty good.
very nice.
Okay. Anything else, Max?
no, that's all I got.
Rachel.
Good afternoon. You should have on board pack a proposal from Taylor Seeker Williams Design Group to put together a wayfinding and signage design package. This is kind of two separate projects coming into one. If you remember back during the stellar planning process, one of the projects that we discussed were community gateways. So those were going to be some sort of entrance signage at all 4 entrances to the city. We obviously didn't get that done. And now that the beautiful cemetery fencing and signage is up, it's kind of brought a little more attention to our welcome sign. And we've actually been approached by the property owner there on the south side, willing to work with us to put some sort of community gateway there. So this proposal is to put kind of a design package together for that. And then also as part of this, we've kind of talked about wayfinding signage, specifically in the downtown. We've kind of gotten some feedback from downtown business owners. We have public restrooms downtown now, but we don't necessarily have anything pointing people down to where those are located. Also, the parking, I won't say problem, the parking perception that, if we could have better signage for our public parking areas, I think people would realize that there really is more parking available than what they perceive. So that's what this proposal is, to put a design package together for both wayfinding signage throughout town, also in the downtown, and then also work on some sort of design concept for the community gateways.
So what are you asking for?
approval to
Okay.
proceed.
Total design package is $8,020.
Yep. I do have in my budget contractual services, and I've got almost $10,000 available right now in my budget that could be used for this.
I have one question.
Sure.
I mean, is there any universities or something like that jump on that could do this for you or something like that for a project for college?
I definitely think there's potential there.
You gotta save some money if you go around like that. Oh, the airport uses stuff like that. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, I can seek proposals, I guess, for that. I think the benefit with using them is they already have a lot of our kind of look. I mean, they've been an integral part of the design process for a lot of these projects.
So where they come up with a design or is that colors and locations? And
Yep.
is that what they're,
All of that.
what they're
Yep, they would do a design package and then also make suggestions on where they think these should be located. And then we had the thought too, to work with the Mayor's Youth Council, because I know a few years ago, or maybe even just a year ago, they had kind of talked about some ideas for a gateway sign. So the idea would be to kind of, once we get some different options, that we could then meet with the Youth Council and kind of work with them to design something.
So at the end of the proposal, you're gonna have you're gonna have a design, identified spots, and there's the third thing. And the actual design.
Yeah, it will all be
We will
packaged.
not have a sign, but we'll have a design to give to be able to present to a contractor.
It will be in the form that all I would have to do is send that file to a sign shop and they would be able to make them.
I think that's a really reasonable quote that you have here. Would that be appropriate to use for script and fund at that time? I mean, if that's appropriate.
Oh, yeah,
use of
that's
that.
a community development.
And then I don't have any issues with it. I think, and it's gonna be done in 45 days. I think we should always look to the universities and places for things like that, but I think the timeline on that is many times greater, and I think the learning curve is much steeper because of all they've got a lot, this particular design group has a lot of our stuff already. So I think I think there'd be a really steep curve to try to get this from somebody else over a long time. I think it'd take us 9 months to a year. Somebody walk in here with nothing.
Well, the other thing is too, is we have let's just say an individual that's interested in helping pay for those types of things.
Yeah.
So
If we could get them designed, we could probably find the fund.
probably,
Okay.
so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the amount of $8,020.
Motion by McFerrin.
I'll say.
Second by Kissling. Roll call.
Dubon.
Aye.
Kissling.
Aye.
Bounds. Bounds.
Aye.
Where?
There you go.
Where? 5 ayes, no nays.
Good. We want to count one for you, Jeff, not two.
Yeah.
One eye.
We had 6 ayes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Approved color.
Pictures, I got a few pictures in my report. Follow me. Pictures a little better to understand than just verbal language. Starting off in the gas department, they installed 2 services this month. Hunter Jagels, Hunter Cross. 8 on file. And the contractors are ready. And then I do have a couple pictures. They replaced, first they replaced a couple plug valves with some ball valves on Railroad Avenue, because I know the street department's gonna be resurfacing, I think from Washington Street from 4th to 6th Street, I believe. So that's some old plug valves which are outdated. And, they need greased, and you gotta be careful not to overgrease them because the grease get into the lines. So they replaced them with ball valves. So dug them up. And then on 3rd in Washington, they had some that had a real light, small leak in them, and they're the flanged plug valves, which the flange is bolted. When they're bolted together, that's not cold anymore. So they dug that up and they welded new ball valves in place. Then the crews worked on removing 2 regulator stations. One was near 19th at Chestnut, the other was just north of Ace Hardware on 19th Street. This was able to be done. And the new regulator station was built by the new street department several years ago. The 2 pictures I have is the 2 regulator stations. Actually, they were not in service. They've been locked out, but they're kind of on the back burner of the low priority list. But we still had to inspect them, kind of maintain them. After this incident, Wishcatter Nursery over in Ireland, we kind of moved them up. So we did dig everything up, cut everything off, re-welded everything, shut everything off. So it's back to just dirt and grass now. So we did eliminate them 2. They were real old. And like I say, been locked out, not in use, but we still had to inspect them. So we worked on that. And then upcoming is for southeast of Ireland. There's the other picture. It's going to be 49 lots, Brookstone 7. They're starting to turn dirt now. So I look for them. Depends on where it might be this fall, maybe this winter when they start building houses. But as you can see, the broken yellow line, we have gas all around it. So it's going to be very minimal to extend the mains into the subdivision. So that's going to be a nice project. That will be up and coming. Any questions on the gas?
About the substation that's got damaged by the vehicle that in process. Or
Yeah, just like everything else, waiting on some parts. Lead time is, we're starting to get them in. Me and Ryan, our welder, he's starting to weld up the new above ground structure. So we got the design on it. So now we're just waiting on some parts. They're starting to come in now. So we'll be working on that, and then we'll final bill the insurance company for it. But all be covered by the insurance.
will that be an upgrade then? Or just be replaced as it was?
It was old, but they got the new design now, so everything will be brand new. So,
So it'll be an upgrade.
yeah. Electric department, moving on to more pictures. They finished the quality in. Everything went real smooth there. As you can see, I got a before and after picture. What it looked like before, that was the original when the building was built, probably 50 years ago. Poles were starting to get a little rotten at the bottom. So you can see it's quite an improvement. We worked in conjunction with Wire Electric. Back in February, council approved up to $12,500 from Wire Electric. You guys, we took the list and we actually did some of the work ourselves. So we got the bill from Wire Electric, it was only like $6,000. So we basically cut the estimated bill in half, but we helped them out and repouring the concrete pad and everything. So cut that bill in half, everything turned out real good. Cut a couple trees down in North Jackson for the street department. And they installed a permanent electric service to Chestnut Gardens. The inner circle, I think where got 2 of them about done. I think we got Doug first for the other 2. So we got that all that permanent service in. And then OFS purchased the building on West 12th Street, the old Carrico building. We had a couple transformers on the pole. They upsized the service, so we went to a pad mount transformer. like you see at the Quality Inn. They fast forward the pads, and set the transformer, run all the wires, that all got converted. So that's done. And then the big project they've been working on is rebuilding 13th Street from Chestnut all the way to the short Geiger Street. That's a single phase line. If Arby's coming in, they need 3-phase. So we got to get 3-phase into 14th Street. So in order to do that, we had to replace probably all the poles. We have to run 2 extra set of lines, so they've been working on that. They had an outage every day where they had to take a transformer out of service, replace the pole, put everything back in. So that's going. So they got one more pole to set. It's actually set a ductile iron pole on 13th and Chestnut. And then at the other end, it's a steel pole. What I'll talk about in a minute. So that's what we've been working on. And then another picture is the actual work being done at 13th and Chestnut. That involves the ductile iron pole. As you can see, the short stud pole that's got the communication lines on, that's what had the old primary wires on. It was leaned over, old. So we really had to redo everything there. We kind of deemed that as a critical pole. That line, that main 3-phase line there, feeds OFS buildings, master Bremen. So steel one went there. And then I do have a quote for the ductile iron poles. I do have a couple pictures of that, kind of describing the pole. And then the other picture, the middle, is the elasticity of it. You can see how it's bent. It withstand supposedly 120 mile-an-hour winds. It is flexible. Next picture is some of the critical areas that these poles are used in. Got a lot of equipment on it. Got ankles, line hardening. What we do, we only use these poles on our main feeder lines that we consider a critical pole. In case storms come through, if one of these critical poles go down on us, which they bend wood, you know, we got a small crew of 5, so when the critical poles goes down, you get a large outage. That takes a lot of time to get it back in. So the more we can harden our main feeder lines, hopefully the outages will be kind of isolated, so our outages be shortened. So that's our project. I do have a quote, 29 poles, $47,993.87. Since we got some a while back, they went up 14% since, and the salesman said they're going to be going up. Like everything else, they're going to continue to go way up.
Except for lumber, hit that area.
And then lumber's all over.
Stayed the same for the last year.
A little pricey up front, but I think the investment is worth it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Those are nice poles.
What's the average, what's the lifespan?
As you see here, 75, 80 years.
So you'd be around when they replace. I think that's a good investment, actually. Because if you can isolate, if you can minimize your outages and harden up your corners and things like that.
We use steel poles out at the tunnel at the airport from both sides. We've got steel there, and that's got a double switches on it. So if that had a wooden pole and a storm come through and it'll knock out the airport and everything, it'd be a day, 2 days.
Terrible.
Tim, that's down.
Tim would be grounded. We don't use them everywhere. It's just kind of talking over with the crew chief, and kind of, that's a critical pole. We want to go with the steel.
That makes sense. There's probably a lot of areas where there's a lot more.
Like,
You don't want to lose this one. If you lose this one, you lose 3 more or whatever.
Plus we have a large outage, we'll be on the main line. Like I said, we've got a small crew, and I've been through hurricane night, tornadoes, the ice storm. It's no fun.
Will it require any special tooling to make attachments to it or anything like that?
Actually, we got a,
Transformer pads or
we
what?
got a magnet drill.
Yeah.
That, it's like a magnetic,
Yeah, it's
goes on there, and it's like a drill press, easy to drill.
So you got a motion to accept that, John, as far as the proposal?
Are there any other quotes?
This is the only company that makes them. They actually, we've got 2 plants in the United States, one in Ohio and one in Utah. It's the only company that, unless you buy a steel pole, these are ductile iron poles. Like Duke and Vectran, of course, their transmission years, I talked to them and they said, anytime they replace a pole, a wooden pole, they replace it with a steel one. Just like they did, coming into town, all them are replaced with steel poles. So they don't replace them with wood anymore due to during storms and just less maintenance, less outage.
I think this need to know that this is the only supplier for this.
The only manufacturer of the ductile iron poles.
So I have a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the
Motion by McFerrin. Second by Ware. Roll call.
Yvonne. Aye. Kissling. Aye. Bounce. Bounce.
Aye.
Ware. Aye. McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes.
And then we did have our transformers, substation transformers and our tap changers, did a yearly oil test. They all come back good. Did have a test that did come back high, real high on one of our on the main tank at North Sub. We're kind of concerned about that, but after we got another company to come in and run a oil sample, it come back okay, so we called the other company that had the high one, and they're gonna check into why it would come back high. But they check for combustible gases in the oil and moisture in the oil. So they all come back, it's part per million, but it's within range. You allow 35 parts per million from moisture, come back like 18-20%. So that's why oil samples are need to be tested every year.
We have these.
Didn't we have issues with this last year, or the year before? We had some,
Back in 2017,
had some cooking, we had to cook the moisture out of it or whatever they do.
it was high moisture at the North Sub. That's why we kind of concerned there, and they brought they had to go offline. They brought a machine in where it heated oil up, cooked the moisture out of it, and then reinserted it. It's probably about $1 million transformer thing. So second test come back good, so I think you were satisfied with that. Any questions on the electric? All right, we're good. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Good evening.
Meeting.
Start off with distribution crew has been flushing and turning valves this past month. They'll finish up this week. We had a small leak on Second Street, estimated water loss was about 100,000 gallons. Put in 6 new services, and there was in-service and training in French Lick, and all the people attended that at one time or another. Our high demand day for this last month was 1,588,000. Our high production day out of the plant was 1,073,000. And the new metering system will continue to install year 5. We ordered 250, which is pretty close to half. As soon as we get those down pretty close, we could final count, and that will change out all the 1-inch and 3/4 inch services. bigger. We've been changing out quite a few of the twos and unders, so the vast majority of the system will be done this year. And then for the upgrades, John Wetzel's here, and I'm gonna turn this over to him in just a minute, but along with my report, you ought to have Division 1 and 3 substantial completion reports and Division 1 and 2 change orders and the final budget. With that, I'll turn this over to Mr. Wetzel.
My name is John Wetzel, and I'm been the project engineer for Midwestern Engineers on the Water System Improvement Project. And I'd like to first just give a brief summary of the project, and then I'll get into each individual division of work and where we stand. And then we do have some pay request, change order, certificate of substantial completion requests that have come in this month that would ask for your consideration on. So anyway, to get started, the water project has been ongoing now for around 4 years. And these projects kind of turn into a grind and a marathon, but we're getting very, very close finally to the completion of the project. Construction actually started in January of 2020, so we're roughly 16 months almost into that construction. The 3 divisions of work. Division 1 is the distribution system, that was Huntingburg Machine Works. On that particular division, we started out with a bid estimated cost of right at $1.4 million. That was a unit price contract, so they got paid for every foot of pipe they put in, every service they changed, every ton of material they brought in, every square yard of asphalt or cubic yard of concrete. Going through the project, it was pretty difficult construction all along 231. Had some things come up during construction. As we were going along, we did hit some main that we felt needed to be replaced along 2nd Street or crossing 231 2nd Street. We did do a change order last year for that. That was roughly about $40,000. Moved on from that, and the work now is complete. They finished up really along 14th Street. We carried that main out a little bit farther to the west and tied it on the west side of Dairy Queen. Cleanup work and cutting the cap and bolt mains and all that has now been completed. They did put together some punch lists that Huntingburg Machine Works did go back and take care of. They'll have a 1-year warranty period from the date of the certificate of substantial completion. So if anything comes up, they're still under contract to take care of those items. We do have a final square up change order for your consideration. And on that final square up change order, we had about almost 60 different pay items. And we did a spreadsheet that showed all the plus minuses for each of those pay items. We had 2 main items that we kind of overran a little bit on quantities. One was bituminous asphalt, and the second was the bedding around the pipe, sand bedding, grade B material. On the bituminous material, I think where we did some cut and caps, tying in the existing mains, that turned out to be a little bit bigger area than what we had originally anticipated. But overall, on the job, we had we're at a square up change order of an increase of $46,723.50. That would put the final contract price at $1,486,490.90. On a job that size with difficulty, felt like everything went pretty well. A little bit slower than what we had hoped. Hoped that had gotten this finished up right at the end of the year, but it took a little bit longer to finish things up. But that's kind of where we stand now. And I don't know if we want to discuss change order, certificate of substantial completion, or each individual one, or if we want to wait till the end.
So we got 3 phases to discuss.
3
distribution, filtration plant.
Yeah.
Solar.
Yeah, and with Division 1, we would have a pay request this month, consideration of change order, and also consideration of certificate of substantial completion. If you want to go through the rest of the work, we can come back to those if you want me to.
Knock them out.
Go ahead, get about that.
No one's talking about distribution. I think I'd just knock that out, otherwise it's gonna get all confusing later.
Okay. Their pay request for this month was $117,401.97. That would pay them in full for their work if it's approved. And that total that they would be paid then would be that $1,486,490.90.
They're done.
The change order, again, I think you have copies of that. If you want me to go through any of those individually items, you can. But that change order would be $46,723.50. So again, we'll ask for your consideration of that. And we do have a certificate of substantial completion. We dated the certificate of substantial completion March 31st of 2021. So that was almost a month ago. That kind of coincided with all the mains that they got out of service and everything. So that's right at the end of March. The 1-year warranty period then would run until March 31st of 2022. And by contract, if there's any issues that come up with the mains or work that they have done, get back with them.
So I think you probably ought to do the change order first, consider approving the change order first before you do substantial completion and approve the final payment.
Pay it.
It's change order number 2, right?
Yes, it is. Change order number 1 previously was approved, and that was to replace the main across 231 at 2nd Street, and that work has been completed.
Change order 2 is the change in materials and asphalt and
All the square, all the quantities.
all the quantities to make everything square.
Yeah.
46,207.
I have a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to accept the change order.
Motion by McFerrin. Second by Ware. Roll call, please.
Bond. Aye. Kissling.
Aye.
Bounce.
Aye.
Ware. Aye. McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes and nays.
Yeah, and that certificate of substantial completion reads, March 31st, 2021 is the date. And they do have a warranty period that goes to March 31st of 2022.
So usually you do the substantial completion next to final inspection, where the engineer determines that everything is completed to the point where we can take possession and use it. There may be a few punch list items that are not finished, but those will be done later. And now John is reporting that not only they achieved substantial completion of these, they've also completed a bunch of items.
Yeah, and some of the mains obviously is a linear project, so some of those mains have been in service for quite some time. But we wanted to do one substantial completion for the entire project, all the work.
I have a motion to accept that.
I'll make
This please. Second by Jose. Roll call.
Bond.
Aye.
Kissling. Bounce.
Aye.
Ware. Aye. McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes.
I did bring copies for SRF. We would need the signatory, authorized signatory. That's the mayor. So I do have copies of both the change order and the certificate of substantial completion for consideration.
Whoa. Those must be clean.
The bird did right before that. So.
For the Division 2.
We approve final payment, maybe final
Oh,
payment.
I'm sorry.
We'll have to do the approval for the final amount, right? Is that what it was?
Are you recommending the final?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Would recommend consideration of their final pay request as well.
Motion for that.
Make a motion.
Motion by Ware.
I'll second it.
Second by McFerrin. Roll call.
Bond.
Aye.
Kissling. Bounce.
Aye.
Ware. Aye. McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes.
For the Division 2 scope of work, that is the water treatment plant improvements, and Reynolds Incorporated, and Reynolds Construction was the contractor on that. For all intents and purposes, the work is the work to produce the additional water is complete. That includes the new raw water pump station, the new flocculator, clarifier, and filter train, all the new chemical feed equipment, backwash tanks, blow down tank, sludge drying beds. All of that is now in service and has been used. That did increase the plant capacity from 800 gallon a minute up to 1,600 gallon a minute. And I think plant personnel have been running the plant, trying to test it to make sure, but we have been running at 1,600 gallon a minute just to make sure it does process the water as it should. We'll say this again, it's been kind of a marathon down there. When you're dealing with a tough construction project like that with complexities, we've had some issues, but they've done a good job of working through everything. Kind of final cleanup is ongoing right now. One of the final pieces is the driveway from the main building down to where the sludge drying beds are and the blow down tanks are. They've been working their way up with the concrete on that. Still have a little bit there to finish. There was a lot of material and a lot of equipment set around, and they're slowly cleaning that up as well. Still have some work to do on that, but coming along all right. So I don't know if there's anything else.
Yeah, no, it's coming along great.
Original contract on that was just under 4.9 million, right at 4,880,000. Currently, with some past change orders, we're at 4,893,000. Do have one for your consideration, and it involves the sodium permanganate feed line. That is a chemical that is added to the water before it comes into the plant to help the settling of the water. We have the pumps for the sodium permanganate line at the plant itself. We discharge it into the new raw water intake pump station. That's to the east of the plant, down there in the bottoms on the downside of the dam. And we've had a little trouble with that in that it was draining itself down, and then when the pumps kicked on, it took a little while for that chemical to come back and add into the raw water. So we looked to add a solenoid valve that would open and close when those pumps turn on and off. So that valve, when the pumps turn off, the valve would shut and our main will not draw down or drain down into the structure. That would hold that chemical in that line. The volume of that chemical the line is such that even though it's a 3/4 inch line, it took a little while for those pumps to start pumping again and fill that line and get back down. So they didn't want the delay when the pumps come on before the chemical is added. So we would look to add a solenoid valve on that 3/4 inch line and integrate that back into the SCADA system so the operators can see remotely and make sure that valve is turned on and off.
So it's like a check valve on a water pump or something?
It's not necessarily a check valve. It doesn't necessarily just let one way flow, but it's a valve that gets an electric signal. And when it would normally be, it could be normally closed. And then when you want it open, if it gets that electric signal, when the pumps come on, it opens up and lets passage. And then when those pumps kick off and that signal goes away, it closes back up and stops the chemical from draining.
Sounds like it's acting like a check valve.
Yeah, that's all.
Similar, yes.
Electronic, but anyway.
It's keeping the line full so the pump don't run dry and all this, and we get
This is main reason we're draining it down, and we were concerned that when the raw water pumps come on, we were having to lag before that chemical would fill back up, that chemical line would fill back up, and then start dripping back into the intake or into the raw pump station.
So you're bringing
does that make our accuracy, or makes our accuracy on chemical
it keeps everything more consistent.
more consistent this way too? We'll ultimately use probably less chemical.
Hopefully.
We have a motion to accept the change order for $7,090. Is that correct?
Yes.
Change order number 3, right?
Yes.
Motion made.
Motion by McFerrin,
I'll second.
second by Kissling. Roll call, please.
Bond.
Aye.
Kissling.
Aye.
Where? Fair.
All right.
Aye.
And there would be one other thing that we had a conference call on with city personnel, Midwestern, Reynolds, Toric, the SCADA system integrator, and also Denora, who is the manufacturer of the MEOX units. The MEOX units are, I want to call them the chlorine generator units there at the plant. The plant makes its own chlorine, uses a brine solution, heats the water, it goes into what I'm going to call the chlorine generators. There's 2 of them, and there's a panel that controls each one of those. And up front, we wanted the SCADA system to control turning those panels on and off. We have bulk tanks that the chlorine generators fill. And the problem that we were having was the chlorine generators, the intent was they were going to take the signal over an Ethernet connection. And I'm a little out of my realm when I talk about this because this gets into our SCADA and electrical guy. Talking with Denora up front, thought that was no issue at all to do it that way. Come to find out, they're now saying that they can't do it over Ethernet. They need a relay and a wire over to it. The reason I'm bringing that up, that's not what we call out in the plans. We may have a little bit of an extra cost coming back on that. We did ask for Reynolds to get a price for that. We're not talking big dollars, but it would take a relay and probably a 3/4 inch conduit to go from one of the panels, or SCADA control panel, over to each of the 2 chlorine generation units. So just forewarning, that may be a few $1,000s potentially. A little disappointed. We thought we had things worked out previously with Denora, and ends up once we're out here that we're not able to do that connection the way we wanted to off that Ethernet connection. So anyway, that may be something to come back with next month potentially. Reynolds did have a pay request this month, $294,534.45. I will note that we've been holding 10% retainage on them. By contract, they could have reduced that retainage down to 5% if they were halfway through the job. They did finally ask for that reduction in retainage. We do feel with the work being nearly complete and everything working pretty well right now, we have no issue and would recommend you consider that reduction in retainage down to 5%. You would still be holding roughly $245,000 in retainage on them yet, but this would reduce that down to that amount.
There's plenty of retainage to finish the project.
We feel like it is.
So can we do that in one fell swoop? Approve a payment with a reduction of retainage?
Yeah, I think you can. Pay request, that is a reduction.
The pay request does show that reduction in it. What they're asking for does show that reduction.
Okay.
I have a motion.
Make that motion.
Motion by Kissling, second by Weir. Roll call.
Yvonne. Aye. Kissel. Aye. Bounce.
Aye.
Ware. Aye. McFerrin.
All right.
Okay. The Division 3 part of the project was the solar array or solar field there at the wastewater or at the water plant, just on the east side, down below the dam. Solential Energy was the contractor on that. Well, been by there, you can see that the array is now up. It was put into service here in the past 30 days. We have a monitoring system set up there as well. The monitoring system just came online last Thursday. So as of last Thursday, they can start monitoring the power produced by the array and also be able to see spillage onto the grid and or consumption through the plant when that is on or when it is producing. So talked to them yesterday. I got a little bit of feedback on some information from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but again, we have a very limited number of days there that we were looking at. So it'll be interesting to see over the next month or so how that's performing and how much is being spilled back on the grid or being consumed by the plant. So have a little bit better idea for you in the next month or so, and that is stuff that city personnel can pull up and look at if they want to at any time.
Is that available, just to the water plant or is it anywhere else?
Anybody that has a website,
There is a password though that you need
Right.
to get on there to
Is
see
it the
that.
city website?
no, their website.
Their website.
Submersials website.
It's on a
And then you
website.
have to have a password to
Okay,
get,
so it's city
So-
personnel only at this point.
the general public couldn't get in and
That's
see
why
what
I
you are.
asked my question.
Have received a couple of checks from him, but
That's good.
for the solar power.
Yeah.
So you're requesting approval of substantial completion of Division 3?
Yeah, and we dated the substantial completion today. Again, we felt like the monitoring equipment getting up and going. Again, everything is working and is complete there. So we would ask for your consideration of that. Again, that would be a 1-year warranty. We carry it through April 27th of 2022.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by McFerrin. Second by Jose. Roll call.
Dubon.
Aye.
Kissler. Aye. Bounce.
Aye.
Ware.
Aye.
Farren.
Aye.
5 ayes.
I got one question for John. Is that any of that conduit work, anything we could do in-house or something like that? Or
What's that?
can we save some money by doing that conduit work? He said they need to run to the different chlorine boxes. Can we do that in-house or anything?
That goes from inside the water treatment plant, from their SCADA panel over to where those two MEOX generators are. It's not a long run, but with Reynolds doing all that work, we would recommend Reynolds to do that. They've actually,
That could create a potential conflict later in warranty or anything, you know?
Yeah.
It's still opening doors now.
Next thing wanted to go through was kind of where we stand over on the budget and also with Midwestern and where we ended up on inspection dollars. We've had an inspector out there from day one. We did run over on what the original budget was. The original budget was set up on so many days for both the distribution system work and plant work, and tried to outline through each of the time periods what we had in there. But would ask for your consideration of expenses up to $218,000. That's up from the very original budget of $165. It was put together when we did the PER. Time with what he was there was with construction, that just lasted longer than what we originally anticipated.
So overall, looks like you're slightly under budget from the post-bid budget.
Yeah, the overall project budget itself was $8 million. And it looks like right now we're just over 7.9 million. We ran over on some items, ran under on some items. And quite honestly, the biggest under on there, we had some dollars set up for asset management. SRF requires a certified asset management plan to be checked off before final payment. And quite honestly, Gary really did the main part of that asset management plan. And he saved a lot of dollars by doing that. It went up to a financial advisor, OH Crone, and they're taking a look at their part of it, which we kind of corresponded with them the last couple of weeks, but that's scheduled to be done here. The city will have to certify to SRF prior to the final drawdown of payment that asset management plan has been completed. So looks like roughly, with all the changes that we are talking about potentially today, you'd have roughly a little over $90,000 available.
So this would be the amendment to the owner engineer agreement. This is on the
Is that a change?
Yes, an amendment to the contract, yes. We had two other amendments. One was for the solar now decided to be put in. And then, oh gosh. I think it was for the
rocks or the,
No, I think it was for the skate. I think it was for the skate. Yes, I'm sorry. We did the skate up front.
I think we did the skate before the project.
Yeah, we did. That's right. I forgot that. It was the skate up front and then the solar. So those were the two amendments previously.
So you need a motion?
I need a motion to accept the amendment to the owner engineer agreement, which is a total of about $218,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
The amendment is what?
The amendment's less than that.
Well, I
Oh,
mean,
the
the
amendment.
total amendment changes it up to the
Up to
218.
That's the total, including the amendment. I'll make that motion.
Motion by McFerrin. Second by Kissling. Roll call, please.
Dubon.
Aye.
Kissling. Bounds. Bounds.
Aye.
Ware. Aye. McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Lastly, with the roughly $90,000 that would be left over, I know during the project, the existing MEOX generator went down, and the city did, outside the bounds of the project, get a replacement for that and install the replacement. That was roughly $65,000, and I'm sorry, I don't know the exact amount. When that happened, we did talk to SRF if that's something they would consider reimbursement for. At the time, verbally, they indicated that, yeah, that's something we would consider. But with the project where they were on construction, they wanted to wait till the end, just to make sure that nothing else came up and there are adequate dollars there. If you so choose, that's one thing that you could potentially use those dollars for, to kind of pay for or reimburse that cost if you so choose to do that. We would have to formally send it to SRF and formal request to them. Verbally, again, what they considered before, what they said before, I think that they would allow that if you so choose to do that.
You're talking about just another payment request,
Yeah, it wouldn't be through any contractors.
a reimbursement payment request.
Right. Yeah.
You don't think we need any of those dollars to complete the asset management?
Well, Buzz would probably have a bill.
Yeah, and we did talk to Buzz on that, and the dollars we're showing there, he's comfortable that covers anything he has.
So the 12.5 includes his Buzz.
Yes.
What does? What's been spent already is?
No,
It hasn't been
it,
spent, but
he
it's
has not,
committed.
he's not asked for it. Just talking with him, he verbally said that would be probably what he had.
So do we need a motion for that, or?
Is there a reason not to do it, or?
But if we don't spend it, you don't get it. I mean, if we don't use those dollars that have been granted, they go back to SRF.
And we've already spent it.
Yeah.
So,
We just spend them on some other.
yeah.
Hey, we reimburse that kitty that we do.
The only reason you wouldn't want to, if there's something that needs to be done to make this project complete, that you'll need more money for, that you want to use the SRF funds for. According to your engineer, you don't need it.
I think that makes perfect sense, that it's something we can reimburse for. You motion to that?
Yes, I do.
I'll take it, make a motion.
Motion by McFerrin. Second by Ware. Roll call, please.
Bond.
Aye.
Kissling. Bounds.
Aye.
Ware.
Aye.
McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes.
We'll go ahead and put a formal request into SRF for that. Again, verbally what they said, don't expect any issue there. You may have a little bit, 20,000 roughly left over after that. If there's anything else that you may
You can give it to me.
Is it retirement thing? Is that-
Well, this ain't.
Yeah, well, thank you for allowing me to be here, and thank you for allowing us to work with you on this project. Appreciate the opportunity, and I know it's been very long, very grinding, but feel like it's been a good project overall. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Nice work.
I've got one thing yet.
Before we do that, there's something I need to say, and that is, I don't know if you guys understood or not, but Gary just given the Operator of the Year award at the water.
AWWA,
Right.
Indiana section for small systems. Small systems is anything under 10,000.
So he's, it was in front of all of his peers, and, he decided to show up anyway.
You have a gold belt?
Yeah.
Sound like a wrestling team.
I was gonna give him a gold watch, but they decided not to.
I wouldn't be strong enough to carry the gold around anyway.
I thought it was one of those wrestling things with all them letters or whatever.
Yeah, there you go. This last week, I went out and went through the B&A building that's for sale out on 64. And the reason I did that, right now the water department we're storing equipment at the building down at the First Street at the Limb Yard. We're storing equipment at Third Street. The south tank, the east tank, truck garage, the filter plant, high service pump building, small garage, and I bought a storage container to try to get our stuff in the dry. And we're still leaving stuff out. Whenever we moved out to the filter plant, we just had no storage. And we've used everything that's available to us. And quite honestly, there's no other place to build out the filter plant. Plus now the filter plant has no storage because we took it and made it filters. So I went out and looked at the B&A building, and it looks very usable to me. There's office space in there where you could put the water superintendent foreman in the office, plus break area. We have no break area right now for the guys. And then it looks to me like we could get all of our equipment in one end of that building and then turn the other end into cold storage and keep the rest of our equipment in the dry down there. There's room outside with the rock bins and keep backhoe and surplus pipe. So what I'd like to do, and I talked to Tom a little bit about that, it also moves us 1 mile closer to town. And when you've got water blowing in the road, a mile makes a whole lot of difference. So what I'd like to do is, Tom says the first thing we'd have to do in order to look into buying that particular piece of property would be get a couple of appraisals on it.
Yeah, the council would have to adopt a resolution declaring an interest in acquiring a piece of property and authorizing 2 appraisals. And then the maximum you can offer for that process is the average of those 2 appraisals.
And I'd like to at least look into getting the appraisals on that. It looks like it would fit the water department. It would be easy to secure. It's got Lego blocks around it, and you could put up one gate and secure everything in. I'd like your permission to just do that.
This would be a both the distribution and the.
This would be distribution. Everything distribution would be housed at that particular lot.
Instead of all over town.
Instead of all over town.
How much room do we have at the street department?
They're pretty full. I mean, if you're gonna combine the 2 utilities, I might see that working, but
When now that we put the rock yards and the salt storage and everything in that lot, based from their other location, back when I worked there, their space, I don't know if it's even as big as they had before. With that big lot they had across the street, what we call the Limb Yard now. Because they had a lot of room in that lot where we were able to store stuff.
we used to share with the electric and, well, originally we were sharing buildings with the electric. And John can tell you, it's kind of inconvenient because we're getting in places where we really don't need to get into as far as electric bills. And we do the same with the street. This looks to me like we'd be better off if we could find a place that, and if this one doesn't work, then so be it. We just wait for the next one.
do we need a not to exceed, or do we, I mean, I don't even know what an appraisal, we've had a crazy appraisal.
Appraisals are good.
I would guess you're probably looking at the top of $4,500 per appraisal. They could be less, they could be less. School
Authorized.
Corporation just had one done, I think theirs was 3,500.
Is that per company or just?
Per appraisal,
I say
You can have two.
You got 2 or 3, right?
2 independent appraisals.
With that three?
Two.
Two.
2 independent appraisals. They can't do the same report, they can do 2 separate reports.
I'm just looking for guidance, otherwise it's just carte blanche, whatever, you know, I don't know, if we should we cap it at 10,000 or 12 or something, or just, does it matter?
I think it just depends on whether you think it's worth looking into or not. I think that's.
I'm struggling to agree with looking into it. Without, well, I like to go around and see what we got and what we have before I would commit to
What
anything.
is, even down at First Street, we're borrowing from the street department down First Street.
I know this building's gonna go for a lot, that's what I heard. So it's gonna.
Do we know what they're asking for the building now?
$599. $599,000.
That's good.
Why don't we just kind of look into it and see what we've got, and then we can come back to the next meeting and kind of talk about a bit more about whether or not it's something to look into for that type of situation. That's a lot of
Can we,
money.
Well, to give you, and I don't know how many of you have really looked at our truck garage. Our truck garage is 34 feet deep and 80 feet long. That building was over 160,000 to get it.
when it was built.
When it was built.
Yeah.
And you could probably half again that to get it built today.
Do you have the money in your budget?
I would assume with the plan.
No, I mean, for the appraisals. Do we have a fund that he?
Utility.
Where you can hide.
I don't, and I'm sort of like, I'd like to investigate what we have available, but I do know when that was lumberyard out on the street department, there was a lot of open buildings for equipment store. I don't know if those are full. I haven't been out there. So.
I would like to, before we spend $8,000, $9,000 on appraisals, I think we should have a more detailed discussion on whether we are willing to spend $600,000 on a piece of property first. You know, I think there just needs to be some more talk about that before we spend the money on the appraisals, and then we decide later that we don't want to spend $600,000 in the first place. You're not going to get the appraisal money back.
So we should table this another meeting, maybe?
That's what I would do.
Yeah, you can do that and bring it back. I mean, is there a way to get a market evaluation without, I mean,
I don't know.
from commercial realtors or something to tell you what the site should sell?
Sell for Free has it. I was talking to him and he said, I am not an appraiser, so he couldn't appraise himself.
There's other commercial realtors out there that we can maybe reach out to just to a ballpark idea.
Well, I'm saying, I think you could get a market evaluation from a commercial,
From the realtor without
Realtor.
having the appraisal, so.
without getting a, hey, is this
I
a
have
reasonable
no
amount?
idea, so I'll talk to him and
Then come back with you probably need to come back with more of a detailed plan for the council to say, here's all my pieces of equipment, here's where they're at, this is how many, this is, maybe this is how much square footage it might take to house what I got now.
I'll get that for you.
I know you will. That's what I'm saying.
Did you ever build that building up at the water tower you told us about years ago? About you could put a dump truck and backhoe and trailer, park it under shed? I mean, that's ready to go from there.
So we're going to table that until next meeting until we get some more information, is that right?
Gary's gonna bring back to us a detailed
To do that, Gary?
summary.
Be about 5 or 6 pages, but we'll get it.
Well, can you condense it? No, I'm just kidding.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Gary.
Like, Bill,
Well, Purvis Foods is supposed to issue approximately $34 million in economic development bonds. Purpose of those bonds would be to refund outstanding issue of about $3 million, and then to invest another $31 million in plant expansion, as well as automizing their plants and also expanding the building. So in order to proceed with economic development bonds, first of all, are although the city would issue those, the city is not obligated under those bonds. Their proceeds are lent to the borrower, which would be far best, and they are solely responsible for the payment of those bonds. But in order for them to proceed with doing the groundwork, they would like some kind of resolution from the city. It's called an inducement resolution that says, yes, we find this to be an appropriate expenditure of economic development funds, funds that will assure the retainage of approximately 640 existing jobs, and that will improve the manufacturing facility there and stabilize, sustain the operation in the future. And although you're not obligated, not assuring that you're going to issue the bonds, you're indicating that you're on board with proceeding investigation, and that by doing that, you're inducing them to take their steps forward. Not only is the city not obligated to pay the payment of these bonds, but any costs associated with issuing the bonds is also borne by the borrower, which is far best. So you have before you a inducement resolution that would essentially determine your interest in proceeding with doing this particular bond issue, finding that this is appropriate use of economic development bonds, and that retaining 640 existing jobs is in the best interest of the city, as well as upgrading their facilities to sustain them as they future employers.
It'll be 2021-14.
I understood that correctly. We have no responsibility or no liability anyway for this resolution. It's just the idea that we're giving them the information that we will look into it as long as they continue to do that. We'll look at the bonds itself, right?
That's correct. Okay.
Where does that come
Phil, is there any kind of limit on the amount of these economic development bonds that the city can approve?
No, there's really no limit. They're not tax exempt though, so the borrower still has to pay taxable interest on them. I also believe that they will probably want to ask the redevelopment commission to amend the plan for the 400 West Far Best economic development area, so that they can use some of the TIF money, not all of it, some of the TIF money that's generated as a result of these improvements toward the bond payments. That seems to be their plan. They would like, first of all, the issuance of the bonds and the amendment of the plan for the TIF area, so that some of the TIF revenue can be used to pay the assistant paying of the bonds, which is what we did with them in 2017. The city reserved back 15% of any captured TIF monies to make improvements that the city found necessary in or serving the area. But the rest of the generated TIF money could be used toward retiring the bonds. So they're asking essentially for the same thing to move forward through the Economic Development Commission and the Redevelopment Commission.
Did you say 15 or 50?
15%.
Okay.
So it will take at least two public hearings, and it'll have to come back before the Economic Development Commission, the Redevelopment Commission, and before this council before it be finalized. This is a very preliminary stage. They would like this inducement resolution to let them know that the council is on board with proceeding, investigating this to see whether or not it's a doable thing before they start hiring consultants and legal costs and all that.
I think one of the things too they were talking about too is the fact that what all they meant to the city of Huntingburg for all they've done and everything. And it's just kind of a good faith estimate showing to them that we're still doing whatever we can to make sure they stay.
It makes sense. We did a very similar thing when they built the building out, the most recent facility.
So do you have a motion for the resolution? Kissling,
I'll say it.
second by McFerrin. Roll call, please.
Yvonne. Aye. Kissling. Aye. Bounce.
Aye.
Ware.
Aye.
McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes, no nays.
Any other items to bring up before the council?
Yeah, I got one.
I was gonna forget you, Tom.
At the last meeting, I told you that we probably need to get a plan together and do a resolution, create a fund for the American Rescue Plan Act. This ordinance creates the fund. The plan I will follow. Have to be developed yet, but basically that's what this is. The plan will tell us what you want to spend that money on through December 31 of 2024.
And as of right now, we still don't know the actual ins and outs of the plan, so.
Right,
as far as-
it's still all new.
Exactly.
But the first step is to create a fund.
Right.
Where these monies can be deposited.
We get some
That's what
money.
essentially, that's what this ordinance is.
Right. We get money, we'll have fund to put it in.
Right. That'd be 2021-15.
So do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to.
Motion by Ware,
I'll say it.
second by McFerrin. Roll call.
Yvonne.
Aye.
Kissling. Bounce.
Aye.
Bear.
Aye.
McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes, no nays.
You can suspend the rules and consider adoption the same night. It's,
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Kissling. Second by Jose. Roll call.
Yvonne. Kissling. Bounce.
Aye.
Bear.
Aye.
McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes, no nays.
Now that I jumped over Tom, anybody else have anything
you know,
else?
We have the motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to
Okay,
adopt.
so I have a motion to adopt.
Motion made.
Motion by McFerrin,
So,
second by Kissling. Roll call.
Yvonne. Kissling.
Aye.
Bounce. Ware.
Aye.
McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes, no nays.
Whole meeting.
Is there anything else in that particular motion?
What was the number, this one, 15?
15, 2021-15.
Okay, thank you.
So, not hearing anything else, is there another motion that anybody would like to
I
make?
would like to make one we adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in, roll call, I guess.
Aye.
Yvonne. Kissling. Bounce. Ware.
Aye.
McFerrin.
Aye.
5 ayes.